All advice given is for general information purposes. All legal cases are different, and you should seek the advice of your own attorney before acting or making decisions. No attorney-client privilege applies to communications on this show, and no attorney-client relationship is created by calling or writing in. Attorney Rominger practices only in Pennsylvania and maintains his primary office in Carlisle, Pennsylvania.
Hey, good afternoon. Carl Rominger coming live at you, 540-0580, answering all your legal questions. So just get up here on the caller board. Of course, if you don't know me, go to romingerlaw.com, R-O-M-I-N-G-E-R law.com, learn a little bit more about my law firm, or you can join me on Facebook, where we have tons of exclusive content, and where even this morning I was answering somebody's legal questions. So I get a lot of private messages on there, and I get a lot of posted ones publicly. We just answer them as they come in, if we can. It's also a good way, if you're on my Facebook page, to get a hold of me in case you need an attorney after hours and you're looking at trying to get something accomplished, or a relative got arrested, or somebody was in a bad car wreck. Carl, what do I do? I'm usually able to get to people right away that way. And it comes right to my smartphone, so that way I can take your information and get you to the person. Gosh, last weekend, I think even, I hooked somebody up with another lawyer. Took me a little while, but I knew the other lawyer's cell phone number. I knew this guy could help him the spur of the moment, and I was able to put two and two together. So that's one of the advantages of being a friend on Facebook. 540-0580, answering all your legal questions. Roger, you're on the air with Carl Rominger. What's going on?
Hey, Carl, question for you regarding CDL information exchange between employers.
Yeah.
I've been filling out a few applications lately, and I saw that I have the right to either know or dispute or whatever what a previous employer is saying. How's that work?
On a CDL issue?
Yes.
Somewhere in the Code of Federal Regulations is how that works. And I honestly don't know the exact mechanism. I've been involved once before with the issue of them reporting out drug issues. Mm-hmm. And getting that expunged off of somebody's record. But as for how you get to see what other employers are saying, I don't know how that process works. So what I'm going to do, Roger, is say any CDL drivers out there listening who know the practical ways of how that works, maybe they could give us a ring right here, okay?
Oh, that sounds good.
So if you listen for the next couple hours, what'll happen invariably, somebody's going to call in a few minutes and say, Carl, I know how this works.
Yeah, I've heard that. I listen to you all the time.
All right, 540-0580. Get Roger an answer here. Okay, I'll talk.
Thank you.
Keep listening. Who's next here? I don't know. Anybody next yet, Shane? No? Or are they chatting you up over there? They don't want to get on the air, or they want to chat you up? They want to chat you up. Well, tell them to stop chatting you up and get on the air. See, what happens is Shane's supposed to be screening the calls, and some of you guys call in and you want to chat Shane up, and then he can't screen the next caller while he chats you up. So he probably should put that person on hold and get the actual caller on the board rather than listening to somebody tell him some cranky thing. What would they want to tell you? What they want to tell you? Oh, well, okay, there you go. Go to romingerlaw.com and go under the news and go down through. It's where we posted the sweet roll recipe. And you guys think I'm kidding about this, right? But when we posted the sweet roll recipe on Facebook, within an hour, 60 people had gone over to look at it. On my Facebook page, I got pictures of the sweet rolls that people have made. 540-0580. Tom, you're on the air.
Hi, Carl.
Hey.
Listen, I talked to you, I think it was Thursday, about power of attorney and a will.
Yeah, it would have been Wednesday with Bob Durgan, right?
Yes, it was.
I filled in for Durgan this week, Wednesday and Friday. So.
Okay. Well, listen, you were telling me that some wills are mandatory and some are something else.
You were talking about what, creating, you wanted to create a situation where you were guaranteed that certain things happen with your estate, right?
No, it's not with mine. It's with my mother-in-law. She wants to be buried in Puerto Rico. That's her wish. But she doesn't have any money to get her there. We don't have any money to get her there.
Well, now, if we go with that language, or go with that theory, must you follow a will? And the answer is you can't follow a will when it's financially impossible.
Okay.
The estate
so what we have already done, we had bought a plot here in Schaeferstown for her and a stone. And I just want to make sure that this is a legal way to go. I mean, all her family is here. Her 3 daughters, her grandchildren, and everybody is here. She only has a son that's in Puerto Rico that she hasn't been in contact with for 30 years. So
right.
This way, everybody here could be here to visit her grave, and they're very close like that. So
I think the answer is that if the estate cannot afford to do those things,
correct,
then they cannot impose those things on third parties. An estate has no ability in the will to say, you shall do this, you shall do that, but by the way, you have to pay for it. So
right.
That's the easy answer right there.
Okay. Well, like I said, it says her wishes are, because my wife and I did the will.
Well, now here's the other thing. When it says wishes,
right,
it doesn't say you must or I shall. It's just giving you some hints.
right.
So read it as, it would be my hope that.
Well, we really wanted to do that because that was her wishes. But right now, like I said, it's monetarily impossible for us to do that. And then we couldn't go there to be with her on, when they bury her. So it would be impossible. But you feel that this is a legal way to go?
Yeah, if it's not conditioning anything, in other words, I could imagine a way of writing a will that basically says you've got to do A, B, and C, otherwise you're not going to get D, okay?
Well, no, her wishes.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So if it's just, it is my wish, or I direct that my remains be. Now, another interesting question on that one is, cremation versus burial, right?
Mm-hmm.
I imagine if somebody directs that they're to be cremated, you're going to have a hard time making an argument that it was cheaper to bury them, right?
Correct.
But here, I think the easy answer is it says wishes, which makes the language somewhat whimsical and precatory, as I've said before.
Right.
More importantly, you cannot impose additional financial burden. So if the family, if the rich grandson wants to fly the body to Puerto Rico, great. But if everybody else wants to say,
we don't have one of those.
Right. Well, there you go. Get to work on it.
Yeah. Well, I've always said that whatever happens to me when I'm gone, I'm not going to know it anyway.
That's the theory.
Well, yeah, that's the theory. I agree. Okay. I think, Carl, that's all I really had to ask you.
Yeah, I think you're fine.
Okay, and I appreciate it.
All right, brother.
Thank you, man.
540-0580. Sorry to cut you off so fast. I'm going to squeeze Frank in before we go to break. Frank.
Hello. Thank you, Carl, for taking my call. I have a quick question. If you have a license to carry and you're out, and let's say you'd be in a bank and you'd be in there while someone comes in to rob the bank,
right.
would it be best not to display your weapon to stop it, or?
Well, okay. First of all, there's no duty on you to do anything. So you want my legal advice, right? My legal advice is you have no duty to do anything, so you should run out the door and run away. That's the best legal strategy.
Okay.
Now, if you legitimately feel that the person who's carrying out the robbery is endangering anybody, and you feel that they're endangering in life and limb, then you have the right to defend others, and you could draw your weapon down on them.
Like if he started shooting or something.
Or even if he just draws a gun. I mean, if you see him pull a deadly weapon, I think that's enough for you to say, I thought he was going to hurt the teller, right?
Yeah.
On the other hand, I guess if a real clever prosecutor could be like, well, he drew a weapon, but his goal was to rob the bank, so who knows if he was actually going to shoot anybody. But it's how you reasonably perceive it under the circumstances, how a reasonable person would react to how you subjectively perceived it. So if you thought that him pulling a deadly weapon suggested that somebody could be in danger of life and limb, then you would have the right to defend them. But your best legal position, again, is to do nothing because you have no duty to defend anyone else.
So the bottom line is don't display your legal pistol unless you feel threatened.
Right, or you want to save somebody else's life. I mean, listen, the legal answer is watch him blow everybody else away. It's not your problem. It's not your legal problem in any way, shape, or form. On the other hand, you might just say, I'm not going to let him shoot that 23-year-old girl behind the desk. I'd rather take him out myself. But that's not the best legal angle. See the difference?
Yes.
All right.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye. See, what your best legal position is and what your best moral position aren't always in alignment. Ian, you're on WHP 580 with Carl Rominger. What's going on?
Hey, Carl, it's Ian. I heard you were asking about something to do with truck driving. I thought maybe I give it my best shot to answer.
All right, hold on. We come back after the break. I'm going to ask you a question. Hold on, Ian.
Okay.
All right, welcome back. Ian, brother, thanks for calling in.
Yes.
Earlier, a guy called in. He said he understands that when he applies to a new employer as a truck driver and the other employer says something about him in terms of his driving history or record or their review of him, so to speak, that there's a way to get that. Ever heard?
Say that again?
That when he applies at a new trucking company as a CDL driver for a CDL job, that he can find out what previous employers have said about him when it comes to driving, etc.?
Actually, it's the same with any employer. I think it's pretty much private, whatever the former employer says. Now, the only thing that's public and would be his MVR, his motor vehicle report from PennDOT.
Gotcha.
That's the only thing that's public. Whatever the employer says about him to the potential new employer, that does not have to be disclosed.
Gotcha. Well, that's the answer. So if anybody disagrees with Ian or knows a different answer, let us know and we'll try to sort it out. But I told him I didn't know the answer, so I was hoping somebody with a CDL would tell us. So you're basically saying there's no special way to find out what a previous employer said about you, except maybe to do the old thing that sometimes people do, which is have their buddy pretend to be a fake employer and contact the old employer and say, hey, do you
that's pretty much about your best bet. I've done that a couple of times. And yeah, I mean, the potential employer is not going to tell you what they said about you. One thing they will say, one question that's always asked, would you rehire the guy?
Right.
So that's one thing a potential employer always asks a previous employer.
Now, our when I was in college and people were going to graduate school, they used to do this thing where they would give the professor 5 letters, to fill out for grad schools.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, one of them was a school they didn't intend to apply for, and then they would read the letter, and then if they didn't like what the professor wrote, they'd deep six the other 4.
Yeah. So, all right, well, I hope I helped out.
All right, thanks. Randy, do you want to weigh in on this as well? Hey, Randy.
Hey, how are you doing, Carl?
Good. You going to weigh in on this as well?
Yes, sir. One of the forms that the new employer will send to the old employer will send about his driving record. Has he had any? The question is, has he had any DOT occurrences? And a DOT occurrence is an accident, a traffic violation, something that DOT states is an issue with them.
Gotcha.
Now, the employer is only required to answer that for DOT violations. The employee could have, say he dinged a bumper on the truck in the yard. That's a non-reportable accident to DOT. He's not required to tell the new employer that the person did that, but he can. If he follows the question to the letter, it's only what is DOT reportable. If he tells him, he dinged the fender on one of our trucks in the yard, he can tell the employer that, but it's not a DOT reportable offense.
Gotcha.
It's kind of a fine line there. If the guy goes out on the road and he rear ends a car and a truck, definitely reportable. He has to tell him about that. But not only will he tell him about that, when the new employer does his DOT background check, he's going to find all that information out anyway. But if he dinged the fender in the yard, moving a trailer around or something, unless that old employer tells the new employer, he won't know it. The new employer won't know about it.
Okay. Well, now we know.
Basically, if you leave the old employer under bad circumstances and he doesn't like you, it's like anything else. He may tell him just to get at you.
Right.
And if you left under good terms, he's probably going to say nothing and say, no, he had no violations, everything's fine.
And I know a lot of really big employers a lot of times just have a policy of just saying as little as possible or just confirming employment dates, because that way there's never any issues with what they said and it doesn't leave them open to any form of liability.
Exactly. Yeah, that's where dinging the fender kind of falls under that category. Right. You're best just to say what you have to say and keep your mouth shut on the rest.
Yeah, and that's where I know when we deal with really big companies in the human resource departments, they'll usually say, it doesn't matter whether we fired you or you left with, the Employee of the Year banner in your pocket. All you're getting from us is he was here from this date to this date. Thank you.
Exactly.
All right, my friend. Thank you.
You're welcome.
540-0580. Lynn, thanks for holding so patiently. Hey, Lynn.
Yes.
What's going on?
Not much, Carl. I have a question for you concerning DUI.
Yes.
I got knocked off back in '02, received ARD, and then I went through your outfit and got my record expunged.
Okay.
Now, are my fingerprints and so forth still on record?
Allegedly.
Or...
Allegedly, they've been shredded and destroyed.
Now, that was a modern electronic type thing, I believe.
Yes. And allegedly they've been destroyed. Do I believe that? I mean,
I wouldn't believe it for a second.
I wouldn't believe it for a second. Do I believe that some agency somewhere in the federal government, the same people who run Echelon and all those other great nifty things, and who are dutifully recording all emails and cell phone calls instantaneously and archiving it so that later, quote, they can, take a look back. Now, does that mean that general law enforcement's going to get a hold of it? And does that mean that, even the FBI can just walk in and get it on demand? The answer is probably no, right? But it's all going to be there.
Could I go to the police department and say, hey, look, I had my record expunged. May I have my fingerprint records and destroy them myself? Or would that be a cool thing to do?
They send them into the state police. And then the state police have a repository. So I guess you could ask the state police, and what they're going to say is, here, you ready for their answer? Oh, we don't know if we have your records or not. Because if it was expunged, it would be gone. Therefore, it won't be here, so there's no way to look it up.
Mm-hmm. All righty.
Right?
Very good.
All right, my friend.
Thank you for your time.
No problem. Yeah, sometimes we need to expunge people's records if it's not done automatically. Scott, you have something on the CDL issue for us? By the way, talk line number is 540-0580. If anybody has legal questions or wants to weigh in on this, what's going on, Scott?
Oh, not much. I just wanted to call and answer on that CDL question.
Yeah.
There's a whole other report that they call a DAQ report, DAQ, that they don't even necessarily have to talk to your old employer. Like if you've ever had a hot urine test or ever been late with a load or anything like that, that's a federal record that is maintained beside your CDL license.
Interesting.
So they don't even have to talk to an old employer. I was refused a job by a DAC report with a larger trucking company about 15 years ago just because of that. So...
Okay. Interesting to know. That's why I got the word out, because I figured the guys that, years ago, my mother told me, because she used to do a lot of assessment land use stuff. And she said, sometimes the attorneys come in and they think they know all the answers, but she's like, the attorneys don't work with the same stuff every day. She goes, I know all the cases that apply to my profession, and I know all the rules. And she's like, a lot of times when they start telling me something, I'm thinking like, yes, I know this. Yes, I know this. Yes, I know this. But you don't know that. And my reasoning is that's why we reach out to people who are in the industry, because you're going to have a much quicker way of getting into what really goes on than I am. I mean, I can spend 10 hours trying to figure this thing out, and I would have learned less than I have from the last 3 callers.
Right. Well, the way it works is like with the Pennsylvania State Police, they only report to so many different agencies or whatever, but that's not worldwide. So if you, say, went down to Tennessee to get a job, Pennsylvania and Tennessee don't talk to each other necessarily.
Okay. So that's good to know, right?
So this is a federal thing that's maintained beside your CDL license number.
All right, brother. Thank you very much.
Yep, thank you.
540-0580. Bob, you're on the air.
Yeah, hi, Carl. First of all, I got to say I love your show. I'm out driving around, and you always give me food for thought.
Well, thank you.
I'm in the overnight delivery business. I'm actually calling on behalf of one of my drivers who's in a bit of a pickle. He had a DUI, about a year and a half ago. It was the first offense. He's a kid. His records were expunged. Well, his boss recently ran a check of all the drivers' motor vehicle records, and his DUI popped up.
And it stays on the driver's record for 10 years.
10 years. I mean, I had one myself about 30 years ago, and I thought that when it was a sponge, the only people that had access to it was the district attorney.
Now here's what happens. The order of criminal expungement, right, kills the criminal file. It kills all the records in the criminal system. But PennDOT has already gotten a form from the clerk of courts certifying your ARD. Okay, so that they can apply their suspension as necessary. As a result, PennDOT retains a record of the license issue and why they did it. And so their position is, and the law kind of bears this out, is we aren't subject to the expungement because we're reporting on the driver's record a license issue that was triggered by the criminal conviction but is a collateral civil consequence. And by law, they're supposed to remove those from the record at 10 years.
Wow. So it'll be there for 10 years.
So that's the dirty secret, because here's why. You ready? How do a lot of times district attorneys and other people figure out you had a DUI within the last 10 years? They look at your driver's record. That's the fastest way in. So it's almost like a secondary index that the legislature cleverly created.
Yeah, because 30 years ago, I mean, mine never popped up anywhere.
Yeah, they're all, well, 30 years ago it was all done differently.
Right.
All right, brother.
All right, thank you.
That's the unfortunate answer. Carl Rominger here answering your legal questions, 540-0580. Go to break. Well, one of the listeners exercised his ability to send me an email. A quick question that I and many friends have discussed. What is the utility of online law schools? I and others have considered attending online law schools to gain more knowledge of the law, but not necessarily become an attorney. Are they worth anything? I know ABA does not accredit any online schools, but I think one can take the bar question. Not sure. Schools like Concord, Northwestern School of Law, Abraham Lincoln, etc. My opinion is valued. Oh, thank you. Well, here was what we need to know. The short answer is the ABA, in order to become a lawyer, you have to go to an accredited law school in most states. California does not require your law school to be accredited. So as I understand it, you could sit for the California bar. You could sit for the California bar without having gone to an accredited law school by the ABA. And sooner or later, they're going to accredit online law schools, but who knows when that will happen. Are they any help or any good? The answer is anytime you learn anything new, it's good. Anytime you learn a different discipline or way of thinking. So engineers have a certain way of thinking about problems. Physicists have another way. Doctors tend to have a different way of thinking about things. And then you have lawyers, and we have our own specific way of breaking things down. But engineers, law, they're very analytical ways of thinking. And we learn to compartmentalize various components of a problem and separate, for instance, law from facts, things like that. So I would think there would be a lot of benefit from learning how to do that. Whether you need an online law school or not, I don't know. I guess maybe we could do a 15-minute segment on this show where I just beat the heck out of you guys with the Socratic method. We'll get a few callers on the phone, put you all on together, and I can scream at you like a law professor and belittle you until you want to go home and cry, and we'll see if that works. But the answer is yeah, you could probably get some benefit from it. What I would recommend is simply going and getting maybe like Scalia's Reading Law, if you want to really screw up your legal mind, or go get some of the other books out there on how to do it and read them. But a little discourse doesn't hurt either. So I think the online school is probably a good idea, but you might do just as well or just as cheaper to go to the bookstore or the Amazon and get a bunch of good books on how to read law or how to think about law. 540-0580. Fred, you're on the air.
Yeah, hi, Carl. Thanks for taking the call. Great show you got here.
Thank you.
Quick question for you. I have a CDL. I recently went on a job interview, and a driving while impaired came up from 30 years ago. Mm-hmm. And it also was on there as a DWI. It was on there twice. I only got it impaired. Now, New York back then, I don't know if that would have something to do with it, but maybe I misunderstood you. Did you say it shouldn't be on there after 10 years?
Well, you're talking about how New York's reporting it out. We were just talking about Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay, so in PA, after 10 years, it wouldn't be on the abstract.
Your driver's license history as your certified driver's record as provided by PennDOT should not have it on there. Now, let me tell you kids what's going on, just so you know. We have people running around the state every day pulling all the new criminal filings, okay? And they're databasing all of it, and private industry has access to a database of this stuff. So I would imagine 30 years from now, even though, let's say, it's been expunged by so-and-so and expunged by this guy and that guy, I may still be able to go to a private company and say, hey, was Bob Smith ever charged with a DUI which might have been expunged?
Yeah, I find it hard to believe that they'd even bring it up, but they did.
Interesting. So it's probably showing on an old criminal abstract or an old DMV abstract from New York.
Yeah, I'm not sure what it was on, whatever they pulled.
And
the guy that took me out for the ride said that what he saw, he said, never seen before. Like my driving record, I was in the 20s, my early 20s.
Right.
I had a couple stupid things on there when you're young,
Mm-hmm.
But he said he'd never seen such an abstract like this before. So it must have something to do with New York.
Yeah, it probably does. Because New York does make a distinction between a DUI, driving while intoxicated, and driving under the influence. They're two different. Driving while impaired versus driving under the influence are two different grades of charge in New York.
Right, but they had them both on there. It may have been I got a DWI, but I really didn't. They dropped it to an impaired. That's probably what happened from what I recollect. But they really should have never even written me up for a DWI. I didn't even blow over a 1. I had three rolling cokes in 3 hours. You're not intoxicated with that.
I know what you're talking about, my friend.
Yeah, okay, well, thanks for taking the call.
All right, Fred, thank you.
Show.
Thanks for listening to the show. 540-0580. Doug, you have a search warrant question?
Hi, Carl. Yeah, my wife and I enjoy this English detective show, Midsummer Murders.
Okay.
And these guys, are chasing down the bad guys, but they have never presented with a search warrant. They wait can I come in and have a conversation, and then they go about finding their evidence,
Right.
So I'm wondering, in Pennsylvania, is that one way these guys would go about it?
Oh, yeah.
Once I invite them in, could they then explore whatever they want to do? And if they did present with a search warrant, could I challenge that and say on what basis was that warrant issued before I allow them to come in?
Yeah, okay, I can answer all three of these. First question is, yes, that's how they get in. They knock on your door and they ask for a cup of tea, and they come in and they sit down with you, and then they say, hey, by the way, since we're here, if you want to dispel any notion of wrongdoing, is it okay if we look in the parlor for the candlestick and Colonel Mustard?
Yeah.
Right. On the other hand, here's the problem. Once you let them in the door, whether you willingly let them go to the parlor to look for the candlestick and Colonel Mustard, or whether they simply just pushed you out of the way and went in, is going to become a factual question. And if they simply say, oh, no, he told us we could go in the parlor.
Okay.
And you go, well, no, I told him no.
Yeah.
Now it's your word against theirs, and they're going to win because magically, when the police lie and the defendant tells the truth, usually the judge says, well, what do you expect me to do? Declare the police officer a liar, Mr. Rominger?
Right.
Well, actually, Judge, yeah, I did. I was hoping maybe once in a while you would,
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, the third one is if he has a warrant, and you say, well, I challenge the validity of the warrant, he's going to say, you don't have the right to challenge the validity of the warrant at this stage.
Oh, okay.
You may challenge the validity of the warrant later in court.
Yeah.
All right?
Okay. So it's at that point that I find out what facts they use to have the judge issue the warrant.
Correct. And you may challenge it on its four corners at that point. And anything that was gotten illegally will be suppressed. Now, here's my other thought. Why are the police in your house chatting with you? And the answer is that goes all the way back to you inviting them in, right? So if they have a warrant, you got to let them do their warrant. If they're invited in, then it's a factual question as to what happened or didn't happen, and so you never invite the police in your house.
Right, got it. Yeah.
All right.
Well, I guess Sergeant Barnaby has a method then, doesn't he?
Oh, and let me tell you, I have 1 million clients. So why did you let him in your house if you had a kilo of cocaine in the closet? Or why did you let him in the house with your water bong sitting on the kitchen table? Or well, I didn't know, Carl, that I didn't have to let him in.
Yeah. All right. Hey, say thanks for the information.
All right. Take care.
Good weekend. Bye.
Or they're so friendly. Oh, he was so friendly. He. Or my other favorite one is, if you come down to the station and talk to me, I won't arrest you. You may go home. Notice this. If you come down to the station and talk to me, I won't arrest you. You may go home. Or if you come down willingly, you will leave the station and we will not arrest you. Well, yeah, that day or that moment. But they'll still arrest you like 2 hours later. Gads Peggy, you're on the air. Peggy.
Hello?
It's
Yes.
you. It's you. You're live on the air. Oh, my God.
Okay. My house was broken into. I'm a victim of my own home of a robbery, theft, or trespassing.
Okay.
My son was basically accused of this trespass, and the DA will not drop the charges. My husband is a stepfather to my son, and he's offering a plea bargain of 6 months in work release or county jail. A felony trespass, which is not acceptable. We did not take the preliminary hearing plea bargain when that happened because my son feels he is innocent. Why should he take any hit?
Well, why is he innocent again? He broke into whose house?
No, he's being accused of breaking into my home.
Well, how did that happen? Did you call the police and say somebody broke into your house?
Yep, and they're turning it around on my son.
Well, let me ask this question. Somebody broke into your house, but you don't think it was your son.
Correct.
And they're saying it was your son.
Correct.
And did your son ever tell them it was him?
My son did not tell them that it was him.
So what proof or evidence do they have that your son was there?
They don't have any proof other than he had admitted that he had a small amount of change at one time taken, which I knew about.
Which was unrelated to this burglary.
He's not related to this burglary, no.
Oh, well, he should get acquitted easily. So you just need to have your lawyer get him acquitted. It shouldn't be hard.
Well, it's already going past that stage. It's in the county. The DA is not dropping the charges.
Right.
And
well, what, you expect the district attorney to drop the charges?
My husband has. They are not using me as a victim because I am not on their side.
Well, who are they using as a victim? Your husband?
My husband.
Well, your husband's obviously what? He's saying your son did break in?
My husband is basically saying he might have somebody that he knows that broke in, and my son does not. But he also asked the DA to drop it, and the DA at this point says they cannot drop it.
Oh, they could drop it. What county are you in?
York.
And who's your? Without giving me a name, do you guys have a defense attorney?
We do.
Yeah. Well, my advice would be take it to trial and get an acquittal, unless your husband's going to go in. I mean, unless they have some way to actually put your son in the house. But they've got to link him to the robbery somehow, or the burglary, I should say, somehow.
Right.
What, his fingerprints were found in his old room? I mean, what? What's their theory?
No, it was in our bedroom, where it's very visual. When you walk into the bedroom, a big change jar, and then to the left there was a big safe that rolls of coins were taken at that point.
What's the over? Hey, for the rest of the audience, what's the over and under that this kid has a drug problem that they know about? How about now? Let me ask you: does he have a drug problem that the government knows about?
Yes.
Okay, well, that's why they're thinking it's him.
Yep, that's exactly right. Because he has chronic back pain, and he is on disability at this point in his young life because of his chronic back pain.
Well, if you want me to go get him an acquittal, call me. Otherwise, make your other attorney do it, okay?
All right.
All right, good luck, Peggy. 540-0580. See you after the break. So I just got word today when I was at the Garden Expo the other day and did a little thing on trees and shrubs, and, I'm calling the police on your tree, I think it was called, or something like that, with Bob Carey, which we had a lot of fun. And we had a small audience there. They replayed it on PCN, and now over almost 400 CD copies of it have been sold around the state. So I guess some poor person somewhere putting their little DVD in the player and thinking they're going to get some great educational piece, and all they get is me and Carrie talking about trees. Actually, that was pretty interesting, but I just thought that was funny. Like that, it would boggle my brain. I didn't know anybody. I didn't even know they sold the stuff off of PCN, let alone that anybody would buy it. But apparently they do. Julian.
Yes, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. I have a question. In 2007, I worked for Werner Enterprise. And after about 5 or 6 months of experience, I had a couple of accidents where I hit two stationary objects.
Okay.
And I was discharged. So then I went home, and after a while, I got another job with a garbage truck. Now, with the garbage truck, I did hit another vehicle. I called that hr1 where they do the DAC reports, and I got my DAC report, and the two accidents were on there. Now, if I'm correct, I can have my record expunged to hr1 for the DAC report, but the one with the garbage truck, which was a non-CDL driving job, do I have to get it expunged into the Motor Vehicle Bureau also?
I don't know if you can expunge that accident or not. I don't know the answer. So I don't know. This is the CDL area where, again, I was earlier pointing out I don't have a lot of expertise, and some of the callers did. So if a couple of CDL callers want to call in and help Julian here, please do so. Otherwise, I'm going to advise you just to ask around. All right?
Okay, but does the CDL record different from the motor vehicle record?
Your state record is different than that federal record, yes.
So if I go for another CDL driving job, they'll only get the record from my CDL accidents, right?
I do not know. I do not know if they'll pull your regular Pennsylvania driver's record or not.
All right, I'm calling. I'm hoping another caller will call in and help me out.
All right, my friend. Good luck. 540-0580. By the way, in the next hour, we are going to have Mark Virginis on here to talk about financial stuff. So if you have some questions about, retirement or financial estate planning, or questions about why the stock market's so high or when hyperinflation is going to occur, we'll talk with Mark Virginis in the next thing here. And for Seth, by the way, yes, we do have a stand your ground law in Pennsylvania. So earlier when I was talking to the person, if he's lawfully entitled to be somewhere and somebody pulls out a deadly weapon, he doesn't have to retreat. But your best legal option still is to retreat. Phil, you're on the air.
Hi, Carl. I'm a truck driver. The previous caller, the DAC report and the state report, two different things altogether.
Okay.
And as I understand it, companies have to subscribe to DAC. Not all companies use it. So,
Okay.
You kind of going blind when you apply for a new job. If a company doesn't use DAC and it's not on your state record, then they don't know anything about it.
They don't know anything about it at all then. Interesting.
Right. I have a question, though, about privacy. I work for a pretty large corporation. I drive a truck for them. They have dash cams,
mm-hmm.
but the camera also looks inside the truck.
Mm-hmm.
So it's record. It records what's going on outside. It's also recording what's going on inside. And it's taking me I sleep in that darn thing. You know what I mean? Is there a privacy issue there, do you think?
They're fully disclosing to you it's their truck, right? And it's their workspace, and they're saying, but then on the other hand, it's also your sleeper car, right?
Right.
That's interesting. I guess anybody can waive their right to privacy, okay? So I would suspect the answer is by taking the job, you've waived your right to privacy. The interesting question would be, if you've been working there and then they added the camera, you could say, well, wait, I didn't bargain for this.
Well, that's exactly what happened.
And in that regard, then I would assume, at least under Pennsylvania law, you could quit and argue that you had to quit because you were being forced to give up some level of privacy, and therefore you should be able to get unemployment. But I think that would be your sole remedy.
Yeah, I don't want to do that.
Yeah, I don't want to do that either. So here's the thing. Keep the girls out of the truck, all right? Things will be fine.
Well, it's not bad. Good Lord. It's just, it's just the idea that they're watching you 24/7.
Right. Well, it's like the two-way screens in 1984. And we're actually not too far away from that. I mean, right now, when somebody goes running off down the street in the city, they can get the CVT cameras, they can get the Mac machine cameras, they can pull up all the private security cameras, and pretty soon they can just watch you run through the city.
Right. Well, yeah, they can do that in England now.
Yeah. I know. All right, my friend.
All right, thank you.
Best answer I had for you. Ed, what do you know? Hey, Ed.
Yes, Carl.
Yep.
Yeah, I just had a quick quick comment on the DAC report. I am driving, so I'm going to make this quick.
Gotcha.
DAC, D-A-K, is a commercial company. It's like a credit report. It collects information. It was more active back in time. I don't even know if they still use it. The last time, about 5 years ago, when I got another job, it seems to be They used another company similar to that, but the previous caller had said it was tied into the government. It's not a government agency. Now, just to give you an idea of what that is used for, a company I worked for back in time, I quit in disgust. And without going into a lot of details, how that showed up on the DAC report is quit under load, which would suggest to another employer that, in other words, I had freight on the truck and I just walked away from it. So I'm just saying that would be one of the uses of that kind of service.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much.
Okie doke. Bye-bye.
Bye, Ed. 540-0580. The next hour, we're going to have Mark Virginis on here, so get your financial questions ready. Matt, you're on the air. Hey, Matt. Matt.
Hello?
Yep. You're on.
Hey, Carl. How you doing?
Good.
I had a question about this New York, actually. I got a ticket on, I think, February 19th. It was a cell phone, talking on a cell phone. Undercover cop caught me and gave me the ticket.
Okay.
Now, till today, I tried 3 times to pay that ticket, and online shows that that ticket does not exist.
Okay.
It's like 15, 17 days now.
So the cop hasn't handed it in yet.
But they, in the back of the ticket, say, within 15 days, if I don't respond, they can suspend the license.
Right. Have you called up to the? Was it written in New York State?
Yes, it's in New York State. Yes.
So it'll be in town court. You got to call the town up there. Remember, we don't answer questions from out of state on this show, but I happen to growing up in New York State, so I know a little bit about how to handle one of these. You got to get hold of the town court up there and find out if it's been filed yet or not.
Because I tried to online, they gave me the confirmation that I tried to pay tickets and said ticket does not exist.
Yeah, I would call, but somewhere on the ticket there should be a town court you can call, like on the phone.
Oh, you had to get the code. I didn't call the code, but I tried to call DMV there.
Yeah, I would call the court because they're the ones who are that's going to be registered through. All right, and that'll be your easiest way to straighten it out. Maybe they never filed it. Maybe they never got it. Maybe you don't have to do anything. Maybe it's like it never happened. That would be the best of all worlds. Carl Rominger here answering your legal questions. We'll be back the next hour. We're going to have Mark Virginis on the air talking about all kinds of things. So if you've got some financial planning questions, retirement, or want to know about insurance, or you want to know why this stock market's going up, let us know.